Hello and welcome to this year's virtual college and career fair. This presentation is going to be about scholarships and financial aid. We're going to start talking about scholarships, and I wanted to just point out that with Bright Futures, the Bright Futures Scholarship Program, there's a lot of information behind this one scholarship, and so that's why we have a separate presentation. So if you haven't already, after watching this video, I encourage you to watch the video presentation on Florida Bright Futures, simply because of the amount of information that that's going to cover. Touch some on what's an institutional scholarship, talk about need-based versus merit-based, private scholarships and organizations, and from organizations and foundations, and then also, of course, local scholarships available to our students. So at the institution, of course, these are funds that are awarded by the college or the university that you would be attending. Usually, these are more your larger sums of money, and like I said, they come directly from the college or the university. So they're typically merit-based, and so based on your GPA and your test scores that you come in with, they could be also based on student need, so they could be need-based as well, or they could be a combo of both. Your need, of course, would be determined by the FAFSA, the federal application for student aid, and we'll talk about that just a little bit later. Also, some key things to remember with institutional scholarships, there could be, and most of the times there is a separate application in addition to your admissions application. Some schools, for example, USF, they actually determine eligibility for their merit scholarships based on the information that's in your admissions application. We do recommend, or it is recommended, that students should submit their admissions applications prior to any priority deadlines that are listed for the school. That usually means that that's their preferred deadline, their admissions deadline, to consider a student for a merit scholarship. So when you're looking at applying to various colleges and universities, make sure that you review the school's websites carefully, not just their admissions page, but also their financial aid page, because within that page, you will find any institutional scholarships and the procedures for applying or the eligibility requirements for those particular scholarships. So once you have applied to your institution, students will be notified of their financial aid award or the financial aid package before they have to accept it. And they will usually tell you when they need you to accept or decline that, that financial aid award package. Review this reward letter carefully to see everything that it includes, because it would include merit-based, need-based, and also student loans that you may qualify for. So if you get this award letter and you assume it's just merit-based scholarships and you click accept and you haven't gone through and line item, you could be accepting a student loan if you did not want to accept a student loan. One thing that you'll find on almost every institutional financial aid page is something called a net price calculator. On the financial aid page, you would find this. So the net price would be equal to the amount a student would pay to attend a specific institution after subtracting any scholarships or potential grants that they would be found eligible for. It is a rough estimate of out-of-pocket expenses to attend a particular college or university. So I'm going to show you, this is the website for the Office of Financial Aid for USF. And under cost of attendance, so this is going to give you an idea of what they charge for tuition and things like that, but they actually have a net price calculator, and it walks you through all the various steps. So you would enter information about yourself as a student, and from that information, they would estimate what your net price would be. So what your out-of-pocket expense would be to attend USF. So again, almost every college will have that on their financial aid page, the net price calculator. Something good to know when you're shopping around for schools. Okay, another place that you could find a lot of scholarship opportunities are with private organizations and foundations. These are scholarships that could be merit-based or it could be need-based again. It depends on the donor. Make sure you read the application carefully to know exactly what it is that they're asking for. You don't want to waste your time applying for a scholarship only to find at the end that you didn't even meet initial eligibility. So make sure that you're applying to scholarships, read what the requirements are and the deadlines. Most of them you'll find are for seniors. But even if you're not a senior and you start seeing scholarships that you would be eligible for, keep them on your radar, keep them on your calendar. So when you become a senior, these are scholarships you can apply for. Some of these scholarships could be a one-time award, like $500, $1,000, couple $1,000s. Some of them may be renewable. So as long as you're in college and you maintain whatever they want you to maintain with regards to credits earned and GPA, you could renew it year to year. And again, some of these are merit-based, but it doesn't always mean merit academics. It could be based on a particular talent you have. It could be a contest that you enter, or an essay that you write, or a film that you produce. A lot of scholarships will take a social subject, a community problem, and ask you to provide like a PSA on how to fix the problem. So there's a lot of opportunities. It's not just filling out an application, and it's not just always writing an essay. One great resource that we do have in our district for our students is the Pasco Education Foundation. This is an organization that works in partnership with the school district, and they manage over 100 scholarships. So it's a kind of a one-stop shop application. And this usually opens in December of a student's senior year, and it's marketed and promoted and communicated out to all the seniors in the district. But they would do one application, and if there's specific additional requirements for some scholarships that they may be eligible for, they would get a notification to add stuff to their application. Think about where you as a parent work, or students think about where your parents work. That organization or that company, they may provide scholarship opportunities to dependents. House of Worship, a church that you attend, they sometimes have scholarship opportunities for graduating seniors. And then again, any other professional or community organization. Consider companies that you're a client or a customer of, like banks or credit unions or utility companies. For example, with the Cucci Power Company, they have several scholarships that they provide to students each year, graduating seniors. So lots of places to look. Something that our district has done that I think is a great, phenomenal resource for our students is that we've compiled a district-wide database for scholarships that's updated on a regular basis. So instead of each high school having to house their own and maintain their own scholarship database or sending everybody to scholarship search sites, we have established our own as a district. So you will find this under the student page, scholarship opportunities. It's our scholarship database district-wide. You can sort alphabetically. You can sort by deadline date. So see, many of these are ongoing. A couple things to note is in here, it will tell you the amount of the scholarship the grades that of students who can apply, and the deadline. So you would open up, you would click on the scholarship and it could give you extra information. So it'd give you the initial requirements. So like I said before, make sure that before you start applying to a scholarship, that you are within the eligibility requirements. And if there's a specific website to go to, it'll give you that as well. So here's an essay scholarship just for seniors. And again, if you're not a senior yet and you start to look through this database, then you know, you can see the deadline. So I'll know that as a senior, and I want to go say here to FSU, I know that as a senior, there's going to be a scholarship for FSU that has a deadline of the middle of March. So you keep it on your radar so you know it's coming. All right. So scholarship essays. Students are going to have, sometimes they have to do their admissions applications. Schools will require and you know, usually have a prompt that they want the student to write about. And a lot of times the student can use their admissions essays as a base for their scholarship essays. They just edit it to whatever the scholarship is requiring. So you tailor your essay to that scholarship and then highlight connections. Try to be as personable as possible. Many times these people that are reading scholarship essays read several of them. So look for a way that you could stand out, like really think about what they're looking for and how you would be somebody that they would really want to represent their scholarship. Think about, they're giving a lot of money to some of these scholarships. And so they look at it as an investment. They want to invest in your education and think about ways to catch their attention, to really portray yourself as the best candidate for that scholarship. Always, always, always have other people look over your essay for grammar and clarity. Make sure that you write your own essay, that they usually can pick up if this is written by the student or somebody else. You want to make sure that they're hearing your voice when they read it, or if you have somebody check it over, make sure that they're hearing your voice when they're reading. Pay attention to the essay guidelines. So if they have a word count, like a maximum, do not go over. If they have a particular prompt they want you to write about, make sure you're writing about that prompt. You may have a fabulous life story that you want to share, but if it doesn't have anything to do with what the essay is asking, then you're not going to be considered for that scholarship because you didn't follow the guidelines. This is an awesome website. You have your English language arts teachers that you can have read over your essays, your career specialists, your school counselors, and there's a lot of free resources to help and offer tips and things like that. But the college essay guy, he is an essay expert. Let's see. Lots and lots of resources. He even has like virtual workshops to help you, key tips, and he really does help students that are writing these essays with ways to stand out. And this is also not just for scholarship essays, but for admissions essays as well. So College Essay Guy is a great resource to have, and we promote it to a lot of students. All right, so after high school, you've gotten some scholarships, maybe you qualified for some financial aid, and you're in college now. Key things: know the renewal guidelines for whatever scholarship you get, whether it's Bright Futures or some other renewable scholarship that USF offers you, or UCF, or whatever institution you go. They will always have renewal guidelines. So meaning that you are required to maintain a certain GPA every semester, and or maintain certain amount of credits that you either enroll in or earn every semester. Know that you can continue to apply for scholarships. Just because you're no longer a high school student doesn't mean that there aren't scholarships out there that you could qualify for, especially when you decide what your major is going to be. You can find a lot of scholarship opportunities that are specific to majors in a school. When you go to college, they will have a college career center and also a financial aid office to help you locate additional financial resources. Please be very, very cautious when you're applying for scholarships. Most importantly, you never pay a fee to apply for a scholarship. You should not have to pay anybody anything to submit an application for a scholarship. If that's in the guidelines or that's in the instructions, red flag, run, don't do it. We have a lot of scholarship search sites out there, and they are legitimate, but we recommend that you set up a separate email address when you're using these scholarship search sites, because it will garner some junk mail. But they are really good resources, but we do recommend maybe setting up a separate email so you don't backlog your personal email account with what you could generate. Also, you could visit this website, FTC's website, on various scholarship and financial aid scams, just to be protective and know that, again, do not pay anybody anything to apply for a scholarship. Okay, so now we're going to start talking about the FAFSA. For many, the FAFSA instills a lot of anxiety because when you go onto the website, and I'll show it to you in just a minute, it can be very cumbersome, but there is a lot of support out there. And once you do it, what I've heard from parents in the past is once you've done it for the first time, the subsequent years after that, it gets a lot easier. But this is the main website to access the FAFSA. This is an application it's for federal student aid. So it's used by post-secondary institutions, and they use the information in the FAFSA to determine your eligibility for a variety of different financial aid. Some schools also want this to be on file if they're providing you any institution aid. So it's a good idea just to go ahead and get it done. This eligibility for the federal student aid is not based on merit. This is strictly need-based. The FAFSA for everybody opens on October 1st of the student's senior year. So if you're a current senior, that application is already opened. If you're a junior, know that you can't apply. You can't begin to apply until October 1st of your senior year. We recommend that you apply as early as possible. The money does run out, but it's something to consider. And the FAFSA needs to be completed every year. So when you go to college, you continue to have to complete the FAFSA. One thing to note is that the FAFSA covers a timeline of fall, spring, summer. So if you are a senior graduating this year and you completed the FAFSA, any financial aid that you would have been awarded as a result of your FAFSA does not go into effect until fall semester. So when you start school in August of 2022. If you choose to attend school in the summer after graduation, or you are admitted into the summer and then you decide to attend in the summer, you will have to resubmit. You will have to submit the current year's FAFSA, the FAFSA for 21-22. If you have any questions about that, contact the financial aid office of the school that you are going to attend. But again, the FAFSA application does not open until October 1st every year. So types of aid that you would be evaluated for by submitting the FAFSA. You've got the federal Pell Grant. This is considered gift aid, and it's money that you don't have to pay back. Also, the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant. This is also considered gift aid. Your federal student loans come from the FAFSA, and there are two types. This is, of course, aid that you must pay back, and I will clarify the two types of student aid in just a moment. But you can also qualify for what's called a work-study program. This is aid that's earned in the form of a paycheck, and it's on-campus employment. So these are jobs that are specifically set aside for students who qualify for work-study as a result of what they submitted on their FAFSA. So I'm going to show you the student aid website. And again, it's studentaid.gov. So this is what it would look like. Studentaid.gov, not .com, but studentaid.gov. You would log in if you've already created your account, or click create an account if you have not made one. But again, the FAFSA gets completed every year. So talking about money that you could qualify for with the FAFSA application, the student loans, there is a subsidized loan and an unsubsidized loan. These are loans in the student's name. We need parent information to complete the FAFSA, but if you decide to accept a student loan, it is in the student's name only. So the subsidized, if you qualify for a subsidized loan, this would mean that the interest on this loan does not begin to accrue until you enter into repayment. So either after you graduate from college, it's usually about 4 to 6 months. So you graduate from college or you stop attending at halftime or more, and then you enter into your repayment. So the interest on that does not begin to accrue until that time. The unsubsidized loan means that your interest will begin to accrue from date of disbursement. So if you accept $1,000 to attend as a freshman next year, as soon as they disperse that money to you is when your interest begins to accrue. And then it gets tacked onto your principal when you enter into repayment status. Some students that take student loans, because the interest is so small at the beginning, they decide to go ahead and start paying that student loan interest. So it's not as much that gets tacked on at the end. There is also Parent Plus loan. These are loans that are in the parent name. And so parents can apply and get student loans, but they're called Parent Plus loans. So these are all the subsidized and the unsubsidized loans you can get through your FAFSA. Okay. So we encourage students when they're going through their college search and applying to colleges and write their essays, we always encourage them to really do it on their own because they really need to be invested on their journey to get to college. But this is one step that really requires the involvement of a parent or guardian. So as you can see by the information here that's needed, both the parent, guardian, and the student have to set up accounts on the studentaid.gov site, and information from both is required to complete the FAFSA. Okay. You will note that the last bullet mentions school codes for each college and university that you're applying to. When you're completing the FAFSA, they have a directory of what their financial aid code is. So it's right there on the FAFSA website. And I think you can put up to 10 colleges on one FAFSA. So you don't need to do a separate application for every school that you want to apply to. All right, dependency status. Some students think if they just move out of their parents' house that they can claim that they're an independent student. That's not the case. Most students are considered dependent, at least till they're 24 years old by the Department of Education. Which means that if a student's applying for financial aid, but prior to them turning 24, they're going to have to put their parent or guardian financial information on their FAFSA. And that's really what's going to determine their eligibility for any kind of financial aid. There are some exceptions, of course. So say a student gets married, say a student has a child before 24, say a student goes into the military and then wants to attend college or university. Those are just some examples of what would lead automatically to that student becoming an independent and they can do their own FAFSA. But there's a lot of other situations that would allow a student to file as an independent on the FAFSA. So you just need to go in and speak to the financial aid office at the college or the university that you're going to attend, and they will help you with any additional paperwork that's needed or documentation that's needed to have your dependency status changed to independent. So you start the FAFSA process, you complete the application. Like I said, remember it's after October 1st of the senior year. And so again, if you're going to college next year, you can't update your FAFSA until after October 1st. So every October is when the FAFSA becomes available for the following school year. At that time, both parent, guardian, and student should go in and create a federal student aid ID. This is your FSA ID, and that does not change. You are going to need that to sign any application that you ever submit. It acts as your legal signature, and then the application's processed by the Office of Federal Student Aid. Once it's submitted, the student will get confirmation that the application was submitted, and in about 3 to 5 days, they'll get information that it was processed. And then eventually the student will also get what's called a SAR, student aid report, which will show them what they're eligible for from the FAFSA. And it'll show Pell Grant eligibility if that applies. That is needs-based. So there's an income cutoff for Pell Grant. It won't show student loan eligibility just yet, but it'll show any estimated Pell Grant eligibility, and it will also show what's called the expected family contribution, the EFC. So what the EFC is that the FAFSA says that based on your income, based on what your tax returns say, the EFC is what they feel that you can realistically contribute to pay for college. We've heard a lot from parents and students that it's nowhere near what they can pay. But this is the figure that is used by FAFSA to determine your eligibility for Pell Grant or any kind of grant eligibility. Your EFC is based on the income that's reported, net worth, family size, age of their parents or guardians, state, federal taxes, and the number of family members attending college in your household. That's what your EFC is. Also, the colleges and the institutions will take your FAFSA information and they determine whatever your financial need may be. And if they have any extra financial aid opportunities, those need-based opportunities, this is where that comes into play. And just so you know, cost of attendance is not just tuition. It is your student fees, your estimated book expenses, housing, and meals. So in the springtime, when students start to get their acceptances to colleges and universities, they also will start to receive what's called, like I mentioned earlier, an award letter. This is your financial aid package from that particular college or university. This will list all of the financial aid that you are eligible to receive, both institution aid and federal aid. So this will include student loans. So you need to be really careful as you're reading over the award letter to determine what you want to accept. So if there's scholarships on this award letter, there's not going to be an opportunity for you to accept or reject, because they assume that if it's money you don't have to pay back, you're going to accept it. So the only things that you have to mark are accept or decline student loans or accept some of your student loans. But make sure that you read over that carefully and accept only what you want to accept. And this is usually due no later than like May 1st, prior to attending the institution, because May 1st is usually the deadline where you have to accept, you have to say, yes, I'm going there if you get accepted, and pay your tuition deposit. So keep those dates in mind. status change. Things happen, unfortunately, and there are times that our financial status in our family will change. Maybe a parent loses a job, they get laid off. So if your family's financial situation changes, even if you've already submitted your FAFSA, you've paid your tuition deposit, you've accepted your whatever financial aid you qualified for, you can always go in and speak to a financial aid representative and have your situation reassessed and possibly resubmit your FAFSA. And that could change what age you qualify for. So don't think if it's ever locked in and you can't change anything. Life happens. So just know that there's no time of year that you can't go in and ask for an updated FAFSA or to change, to reassess your possible eligibility for any financial aid. This is the customer service number for federal student aid. So anything pertaining to the FAFSA, you can call this number, or like I said, go in and speak to a representative at the financial aid office at the school that you're planning to attend. You can contact them directly. Usually they have an email of somebody that you can contact with general questions, but you can also go reach out to your high school career specialist. That is an individual at your school that's very well versed in the area of financial aid and college planning. So I hope this was an informative session for you. And after you watch the video, there will be an individual that's available for question and answers in the Zoom room. Have a great night.